name is Jason J. Rock Houston, and you're listening to Chaotic Riffs Magazine. We can be found on the web at www.chaoticriffs.com. Our special guest tonight is tuba members of Spread Eagle, which is speaking with bassist Rob Deluca and lead singer Ray West. Thanks for joining us here tonight, guys.
It's our pleasure, man. Yeah,
our pleasure to be here, Jason.
Now, let me ask you both. Spread Eagle has, you guys disbanded approximately about 22 years ago. So, what was the point? And talk a little bit about the decision to get back together. What was that like?
I owed Ray some money, and the only way we could pay him back was to somehow generate some Spread Eagle monies. And,
yeah, I've been on his ass. He still owes me back rent.
I think we've succeeded, and now we can break up again.
Wow.
I'm out of here. Bye.
Well, you guys got a great attitude. I love that. And I just got to say,
we've been friends for so long. Like we've done hundreds of interviews together. So we're true friends. So it's just like it's not hard for us, And plus we're promoting our new record. So what could be better,
Yeah. Now let me ask you on that end. Since you guys are such good friends and you go way back, did you keep in touch when the band wasn't active?
Absolutely.
Wow.
Yeah. Rob and I kept in touch. Yeah.
I mean, we're both in New York City, Yeah. Still.
Let me just say, I've always been a pain in his ass for years. So.
But that could be a good thing because like a lot of great legendary bands like Aerosmith's a perfect example. A lot of times they say when there's that tension, that friction, it makes for great music.
Yeah, we're just natural pains in the ass. That's all.
Hey, you're just being yourself, but hey, more power to you.
Yeah, man. We're easy. We're easy. We're both very laid back guys. But at the flip side of that, he's very fiery, and I can be very fiery. So he's just a really creative cat, and I think I have my moments too. So we've always gotten along very well.
Now let me ask you,
really
growing up, let's talk about some of you guys' influence. Who are the musicians or the bands that really inspired you to do what you're doing?
Oh, wow. Well, me personally, you go first, Rob. I like this. I like Rob's answer.
Just really quickly, AC/DC's Highway to Hell album to me was a life changer. Before that, Aerosmith's Toys in the Attic was a life changer. I'm actually really into the band Fugazi from DC. That was a life changer to me. A couple obscure things, a band called Afghan Wigs from Cincinnati.
Wow.
And obviously Appetite for Destruction.
Now you mentioned AC/DC, and I just got to ask you, are you even aware that this year, 2019, marks the 40th anniversary of that landmark album?
Wow.
Well, I knew that there was some stuff coming out on the web that they were throwing out some rare footage from that.
Yeah, that's part why they're doing that. And then I've also heard, but I don't know if it's coming out this year, beginning of 2020, but there is going to be one more AC/DC album. They went in, they found a bunch of riffs they had recorded with Malcolm before he got sick, and then Brian and Cliff have come back to the band, and there's actually going to be a new like AC/DC album, and they're talking about going out and touring. It's going to be like their last hurrah. So we'll see.
Is Cliff definitely back?
That's what they say, and they actually went in.
I hope so.
They actually went and recorded some of it.
Are they gonna go with Axl? Is he doing that?
No, apparently Brian has come back. Brian has come back.
Oh, really?
And Cliff has come back,
man.
and they went into the studio and they recorded this stuff that I guess that they had already had written, and they found some old tracks that are riffs from Malcolm, and so Malcolm's going to be featured on this album as well.
Yeah, they recorded a lot of stuff, Ray.
They're such a great live band. Yeah, they're such a great live band, man.
Yeah.
That sound just sort of cuts through the air. You know what I mean?
Jason,
I love AC/DC too.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Jason, I've listened to your shows. I've listened to a handful of them, and you definitely are informed about rock and roll, and that's cool. Like, I like how you're not just someone who asks questions. You go off into conversations about.
Yeah, well,
rock and roll,
I'll be honest with you guys. Like, I've been doing
the same way.
I've been doing this for a while now, and that's the thing is I'm doing it out of my love for music and rock bands like what you guys do. And I've had a couple people tell me like sometimes I also write up CD reviews and say, how come every time you review CD you give it you don't write up any bad reviews? And I'm like, I'm all about spreading love in the sense that I would rather spend my time promoting the bands that I dig and think are great than spreading the hate, if you know what I mean. I mean, there's enough people.
Yeah, and plus, maybe you just only choose bands that you want to say nice things about. You don't want to do like a band that you don't like. You'd be like, no, I'm going to pass on that.
Yeah.
You know what? You gotta march to the beat of your own drummer, bro. I've always gotten in trouble, for that too. It's sort of like sticking to my own guns, and sometimes it gets you in trouble. It doesn't get you everything you want, but at the end of the day, you leave with your balls intact. You know what I mean?
And I'll tell you this: like, I've been doing these interviews for a while, and I'll be honest. Like anything in life, the longer I get do them, the better I get. Like when I first started doing them, I'll be honest. I kind of was unexperienced, and I would like write all the questions out. I'd be all prepared, and then when I listen back to them, I find that it sounded almost robotic. And I've got in a style now where if you've listened to any of the interviews, it's like I'm talking to an old friend. I just kind of talk off the cuff, and it sounds much better. It doesn't sound so robotic. Yeah,
I think musicians can relate to that too. Like if we have a song we have to learn, a gig, when we're young and just a bit experienced, we're like, we learn it and that's all we can focus on. And then as you do it for years and years and years, you realize kind of pulling back and listening to everything else and not so focused on just what you're doing will actually make you better, but that's experience. That's a life lesson, and it takes a while.
You gotta take it all in, man.
And so you guys are kind of like the I guess the core of the band, but let me ask you, are you the primary guys?
The two original members, but the band is composed of four equals.
But I guess what I'm asking is like, since you guys are the two original members, are you like the primary songwriters? Does everything have to?
No, we all write.
Okay. No, we all write equal. We all have input. We all write together. We are all arranged together. It all goes through the machine. Everything has to go through the Spread Eagle machine.
Okay. And now let me ask you, like we said, the band has been apart. You just put out this new album. It's like the first thing you've done in 22 years. Now let me ask you, when you decide the band's getting back together and we're going to go and record some new music, what was the thought process? Did you want to still have like that classic Spread Eagle sound, or did you want to have more of a modern sound like for today?
No, I can tell you right now, we just wanted to write good music.
There you go.
Stuff we could really feel good about and sink our teeth into. And we really, the band had split up, but as me and Rob, we had still done gigs since like 2009 or something like that. So
6.
We've always
again, right?
All right, so 6. So Rob and I have always had the intention of doing gigs. The intention of writing music together again came because we'd gone to the UK and Germany like in 2017.
Wow.
But it wasn't like we were like, let's write this contrived thing and sound like this. This is what we sound like now.
Oh, good.
It's that simple. With Rob and myself and Steve and Ricky, this is what we sound like. So it's an evolution of us, yes, as writers, but I think we've matured into this really cool thing. And this is just what we write. You know what I mean?
And I'd imagine, too, that evolution has to do with the fact that, like you said, you got 2 new members in the band. And so anytime you got even one new guy in the band, they're going to bring a different influence to the table. They're going to bring something different to the picture, and that's what it's all about, is evolution.
Oh yeah, and they're amazing musicians. I mean, it's like they bring great energy to the table. We're all students of music.
Yeah.
Rob listens to modern music, and so do I. I mean, today I was listening to Highly Suspect. I love that band.
Wow.
You know what I mean? It's like I listen to everything, and Ricky's the same way. Z's very broad in what he does musically, so they bring a lot to the table. But the music sensibilities of everybody's pretty much the same. I mean, we all do like certain things. Probably some of us don't like.
Yeah.
But we all have the same sense of musicality. You know what I mean?
That's cool. Now, Ray, let's get back to the influence. What were some of your influences as far as singers or just bands growing up?
Oh wow, the Beatles, all that stuff. The Beatles.
You were Stevie. Back in 1990, you were talking about Stevie Marriott a lot.
Oh wow!
Yeah, I love. Because I would like. You emulate people as you grow up. As a singer, I think you emulate people at first. So for me, it was like Steve Marriott was like an amazing voice. And just that sound that he had blew my mind, man.
People might be surprised to hear you listen.
Huge influence on Phil Mogg, also, right?
Oh wow!
Oh yeah, man. And Phil Mogg is such a great stylist. Just the way he enunciates words and twists things up and just a little bit of rasp in a sentence. You start to notice things like that, you take it all in, but then you make your own gumbo out of it. So I love James Brown. I love Stevie Wonder. I love Sam Cooke.
So talking a bit about Phil Mogg for a minute, your friend Rob has a little bit of experience playing with him.
Yeah, he works with
Ray.
UFO. Have you ever?
What I meant, Ray, was that Stevie Marriott is a huge influence on Phil Mogg too.
Oh wow,
that's what I meant to say.
Yeah.
And that same sentence,
probably his number one.
Wow.
Oh, see that's a singer thing. I think if you like blues rock singers, which that's where it all comes from. Your Bon Scotts, the Brian Johnsons. The blues is everything. Whether it's B.B. King or Steve Marriott or whatever. But I think I feel a lot. Music really moves me. It's like I love Sade. I listen to that all the time. But so my influences vary from everything from Steve Marriott to fucking Richard Pryor. You know what I mean?
Again, going back to what you were saying earlier, good music is good music. I let my ears kind of judge what I like, not necessarily what's the flavor of the month or what's popular at the time.
If it makes you feel good. That's right. If it makes you feel, it's better to look good than to feel good.
Yeah.
What you listen to, if it moves you, it makes you feel good. That's what's important.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a guy who typically listens to hard rock and metal, but I do have appreciation for bands like the Eagles or Tom Petty. You listen to any of those songs?
Oh yeah, man.
These are great songwriters. They've got great melodies, great hooks. I mean, you turn on the radio any day of the week and you're going to hear songs by these guys because some of these songs have
there's great.
Been on the radio.
There's great tonality.
Yeah.
There's great how they sound. Tom Petty was a freak of nature. His tone was so weird, but it works.
And and
let's get back to Phil Mogg because all that stuff, man. Doctor, Too Hot. That stuff's incredible. He's a song stylist. I don't care what kind of notes you can hit. That doesn't interest me at all. It's about what kind of style you have, what you bring to the table stylistically. I think that's important. I think I'm more of a vocal stylist than anything else.
Now I'm assuming you've gone to see your friend Ray play with UFO, and I'd imagine you've had a chance to meet Phil Mogg at this point. What was that like?
It was great. He was funny as hell, man. Because Rob told me how funny he was, but until you meet the guy, you don't believe it. Yeah. He was very, he just makes you feel comfortable right away. And when the band plays, he does that to the whole room. So it was great to meet him.
And Rob, what was that like for you? When you first got the gig with UFO? And I ask this because I imagine it must be like a dream come true. But typically like UFO is a legendary British, great British rock band, and you're like, well, Vinnie Moore now, but now UFO's got a couple American lads in their lineup now.
Well, the truth of the matter is, any bass player would be really psyched to get that gig because it's a big gig.
Yeah.
Even if you weren't that into the band, but you were trying to further your career, it's a really good gig to have. But for me, UFO was a big deal because I saw them when I was a kid in high school, standing on my chair at the Tower Theater outside of Philadelphia.
And that would have been with Michael Schenker, correct?
No, it was just after he left, or a little bit after he left. It was with Paul Chapman and Paul Raymond.
Oh wow!
So,
I saw that lineup.
Yeah, it was on the Nowhere to Run, No Place to Run tour. So I would have jumped at the gig no matter. But it was a special gig, a special situation for me because it was actually a band that meant a lot to me in my formative years. So that was awesome.
And what an opportunity! I mean, just think about that. I mean, all those years ago, you seen you were in the audience, and then you're kind of like, all these years later, you're actually up on stage playing with some of those guys.
It's the only band that I went to see that I play in. I played in a bunch of bands, but I never saw them. Actually, I take that back. Yeah. I saw Doc, and then I played with George Lynch, but that's the only other one. But that's not even really the same. But UFO was the name on the ticket, and I went to see them. So it's cool.
Now I know you've
good guys.
I know you've been in the touring lineup with UFO for a number of years now, but have you actually made any records with them?
Absolutely. I co-wrote 3 songs on the A Conspiracy of Stars album, which came out in 2015, 2016.
Oh wow!
And I played on the last album which was a covers album, and it was produced by all of us.
And now I know that you guys have currently like a great I haven't got my hands on it. I plan to get it, but I know there's a greatest hits album kind of out there right now. That's the latest thing that UFO is promoting. So
absolutely.
So
you guys are going to tour that, right, Rob? You're going to tour that record, right?
They don't really. They have a tour coming up starting on October 9th, but it's not really touring an album. It's just kind of like a
sporadic.
It's called the Last Orders tour, and there's rumors that it's the farewell tour, but I'm not totally sure about that.
Is it going to be like Kiss, where it's like a farewell tour every 6 months?
Or the Who? Yeah.
I hope so, right? I fucking hope so.
That'd be good. You got to keep that going, bro.
Yeah.
Yeah. And now let me ask you.
You know what? Wait, real quick. Yeah. I saw Phil Mogg and UFO do the coolest thing. They had played down here in the Sunrise Musical Theater.
Oh wow.
Might have been that tour, but the band came out the first song and the sound system was shit. So Phil Mogg stopped the set in front of the whole audience, like, this fucking sound sucks, man. We're coming back. They walked off stage, and then they came back again to the opening again. It was awesome.
Wow, how cool is that? Cool. And now,
balls of steel, man. I was like, that guy's awesome.
And now, Rob, you of course, you stepped in for the alien Pete Way, the legendary Pete Way. Now I know he's been the last couple of years battling cancer. Have you talked to him, or do you know how he's doing currently?
I never met Pete until about 2 months ago at Sweden Rock Festival. I shook his hand and said hi, and that was it.
Wow.
So I don't know the guy.
Yeah.
But I'm a huge fan, and I wish him the best. I think he's a legend.
Yeah. Now, when you get a gig like that, replacing a legendary guy like that, when you first joined the ranks of a legendary band like that, like I was curious, Rob, do you go in there like I'm going to play these songs note for note the way Pete did, or do you go in there trying to kind of put your own little spin on the tunes?
I'd say leaning more towards the note for note, but I would say maybe 90%, so the audience feels comfortable with the way it sounds, so what they're used to hearing. But no two musicians play alike, so certain little things it's just natural to emulate. Make things stronger to yourself. And I'm not saying I could make them stronger.
I hear you. Just
in general, but
based on the way you play, Now,
the way I play.
I was going to ask you, Rob. Also, I seen I got a separate press release about different things you're currently involved with, and one of them was this thing called Of Earth. Could you talk a little bit about that? What that is?
Yeah, Of Earth is on hiatus, but it's with Spread Eagle's drummer Rick Deluca.
Okay.
And it's just something that's it's a completely different trip for me, much more cinematic, more like a 70s Pink Floyd kind of thing.
Oh wow!
And it means a lot to me to stretch out, especially writing wise. And I sing in that band, but and it means a lot to me. However, my focus right now is on Spread Eagle, so I haven't been working on it lately. Okay. Someday I'll get back to it, though.
I hear you. Now
he's being modest. It's a very good band.
Okay, let me ask now. Getting back to Spread Eagle, like when you guys decided to split up, 22 years ago, was it a matter of just kind of when grunge was getting big and kind of taking over a scene, and people weren't really into the hard rock scene anymore, or did you just it was your time to kind of go away for a while?
Well, let me just, I got to tell you, I didn't like decisions that were being made around the band.
Okay.
You can only do so much, but I'm going to say it, the management and the label did not live up to their expectations, and they just, when people are making bad decisions around you, you start to feel helpless.
Yeah.
There's nothing you can really do but just leave the table, with your integrity intact.
Yeah.
And the label was afraid because they had a great band and they just didn't know what to do with it.
Yeah.
They signed about 10 bands at once. It was all on the table, and they just didn't know what to do with it. Period. So I just thought it best to leave. And I remember having a conversation with Paul, and I was just done with it. And I said I would rather just leave, with my balls in my hand and have to give them over to this machine that didn't know what the hell it was doing.
And let me ask you, Rob. Once Ray kind of announced he had intentions of leaving the band, did you ever toy with the idea of carrying on with a new singer? Did you just kind of decide, well, the only way I can really do this is with my partner Ray here?
I'll be honest. For a minute we did, but that was 20, 25 years ago, and I would never think that now. Yeah. being that young, thinking,
hungry. And
I spent all this time on this.
Yeah.
You know, I thought, yeah, we could, but everyone had quit. Like after Ray quit, Paul quit, and it really after those two, you know, Ray was the style of the band. Paul was like the engine of the band. I think Tommy Gallo, our original drummer, were like the soul of the band. I mean, you know, not to take away from anyone or add to anyone. You know, like Paul obviously had soul, and Ray obviously had soul, and I obviously was pushing, and Tommy obviously had style. But I would say, if I had to like really generalize, you know, Ray was like the style. He was the front man. He was the star. Paul was the engine. He was older than us, and he was so incredibly musical. We just by hanging out with Paul, I learned every day, and I would assume other people did also. You know, but Tommy and I were these young guys who just were like, we were relentless. So we were kind of like the soul, you know. Yeah. But when you take, you know, we were the rhythm. We were the rhythm section, and Paul and Ray and Paul were the lead section. And when you take the lead section away, it's damn hard to keep it going. You know.
Yeah. Rob and Tommy had great. You know, they were awesome, and I always felt bad about, you know, just cutting out. But it had to be done, because the only way to just, you know, you had to kill it, because it was going to be taken down or watered down, and we didn't want to be part of it.
And at least you got to do it your way. And, you know, a great example of what you're talking about when bands are mismanaged and people making, you know, wrong decisions. A great example of that is the band Tesla. I mean, initially they broke up like back in, I think, 94. They put out their last album at the time, which it was more of an alternative album. People kind of latched onto it now and really like it, but at the time it didn't sell too well. And when they broke up, they you know, they weren't as popular as they initially were. And then since they got back together, I think like in you know, 2000 or whatever it was, they've come back bigger and better, and their albums are selling even the stuff they're putting out today is selling out even bigger than their, you know, original. Like
Ray knows those guys, so
I toured with them in 2017 with my other band, and Jeff was awesome. Jeff is just like, whatever he's on, I want to make sure that I have a big bottle of that.
See what makes him such a great.
He's just like he's a happy singing melodic cat who's just like, that's, you know, he just enjoys every day, every minute, and when you're around him, he makes you feel better.
And what makes him such a great performer and singer is he can sing everything from a power ballad to full-blown on metal, and you know, a country song and everything in between.
In the words of Jeff,
he is versatile, isn't it, right?
Yeah, man. In the words of Jeff, it's all love, man.
Yeah,
he's got that bite on his voice, so he can, you know.
And they're great. They're great guys. They're great. They're a class act, you know, all of them. You know, Troy, Frank. They're just all really cool people.
Yeah,
I actually know Troy, and he is a nice guy and a class act, absolutely.
Wow,
he'll be the first one to come up and say hello. You know, it's
I'll give you guys a little bit of trivia if you're at all Tesla fans. Like the song, I'm sure you've heard the classic Tesla song "Little Susie," which was on their first album. Do you have any idea? That's actually a cover tune. Do you have any idea who brought that tune to them?
No, and I don't know who the original.
The legendary Ronnie Montrose.
Really?
He wrote it?
Yeah, the story. I don't know if he wrote it, but the story I was told was that he actually was in the studio recording the same time Tesla was in the studio, and I guess he was friends with those guys, and it was when they were just first starting out, and he brought the tune to them and said, "Hey, you guys should cover this," and that's why they even did the song in the first place.
Wow,
that's cool, man.
I think that's like a Northern California kind of thing. Those guys, all those guys.
Yeah. Ronnie was from Northern California, and
Bay Area.
You know, people.
I used to love Gamma with him. That was awesome.
Yeah, Gamma's a little more harder edge than Montrose, but yeah, it's all good. That's another great thing about Ronnie Montrose. People think, you know, all that guy did was that, you know, those first two albums with Sammy Hagar. But if you get into the Montrose catalog, there's a ton of great music people don't even realize is out there.
There are some great songwriters in this world, man, that don't get the due that they deserve.
Yeah, and I got to tell you guys, to all the Spread Eagle fans that are going to be listening to this interview, you guys mentioned you were influenced by the Beatles, which people might be kind of surprised to learn this too. But see, the great thing about the Beatles and why they've influenced so many people as songwriters is, again, the Beatles is another one of those bands. They can do everything from something like Let It Be to Helter Skelter, and that's the point I'm going to make. A lot of people listening to this, they think Helter Skelter is a Motley Crue song. No, they did a cover. They did a cover of it, but
yeah, that's just dumb.
Yeah, but it's funny. There's a lot of kids that weren't around back in the day, and they think, oh, Motley Crue did that.
Yeah, that happens. True.
Yeah,
as Ray said, there's a lot of dumb people in the world too.
Yeah, man.
And so a
band's got to be versatile.
Yeah.
A band's got to be versatile. You have to be able to write, a really easy acoustic piece and a heavy piece. Why not?
Yeah.
That's musicality.
And I also got to credit you guys, not just for getting the band back together, but the fact that you made the decision. We're going to put out a new full length CD, because there are a lot of bands that the music scene is not like what once was when Spread Eagle first came out. I mean, I live near Los Angeles. If I get most of my CDs, to be honest, on Amazon, but the closest record store to where I live, believe it or not, I have to drive all the way to Hollywood. You can't even get CDs like you used to. It's very sad state. So a lot of bands have the attitude, nobody's buying physical CDs. Why bother writing any new music? We're just going to live off.
Well, you can order them though.
Huh?
You can order them on Amazon and eBay and all those outlets.
So see, that's
if you want them.
See, that's my point.
Go to spreadeagle.com.
Yeah. See, well, that's great too, because
spreadeagle.us.
See,
it's US.
Yeah, that's a great point, because that's my next point. Is I believe in supporting the bands that I really dig, and the way things are.
Ching, one more sale.
I don't want to buy the whole album. I'll just buy the single for 99 cents. But if you really want to support your bands, that's what you'll do.
Well, yeah, because we were just talking about this today, because it's changed so much. People are streaming everything.
Yeah.
People are listening to music that way. So how do you make money? So there's all this. Merch has become a really huge thing. Merch and branding has become a really huge thing.
Yeah.
But the way the fans, they buy the CDs as souvenirs.
Yeah.
To support the band, to see your band, and to spread that word, you've got to definitely support by buying product, which is the way. It's always where people buy art, so the artist can keep doing his thing.
Yeah, and just to point out another thing about, we were talking about Tesla a bit ago, and I'll tell you, a couple years back, maybe about 10 years ago now, when I went to see them live, they put out like a 2-volume cover CD.
Who is this?
Tesla, and you could buy. You could buy volume 1 of the CD in the store, but if you wanted to get volume 2, you had to go see the band live. And as you go into a concert hall, they would hand people the second volume to the CD, and that was the only way you could get it. You couldn't even
very interesting.
You couldn't even order online, and a lot of people just went to see the show just to get that second volume to the CD.
Well, they are a great band, though. Getting back to your original point, they're amazing. Jeff Keith is amazing. All those guys.
Yeah.
Troy, they're just incredible band.
And now you said when you guys got the initial idea to get Spread Eagle back together, it was a couple of years ago when you did a gig in Europe. Now, I hear a lot of the rock fans, in Europe, they have a lot more love for their bands, if you know what I mean. And are you finding, as the band is regrouping and getting back together, that you're like really big in places like Europe and other parts of the world, maybe where you've never even toured before?
There are pockets where we're like we've become like cult heroes, yeah. And we're kind of, we just released our first comeback record, so it's all just coming together now.
Yeah.
But we are going to try to string all these markets together, and some of them, yes, we will get like this cult hero status, which I appreciate. I don't let it go to my head or anything, because we're not a massive band, but it's cool to be appreciated.
But on that note, like you said, you just barely released the CD. So my question is, since you put out the CD and people are starting to realize the band is back together, are you finding there's more love for Spread Eagle than you initially thought when you got the idea to put the band back together? Are you kind of overwhelmed?
Definitely not.
Yeah,
definitely not. That's why we put it back together, because people have been begging us for so many years, and we actually it's been together since 2006, actually.
Okay.
But I gotta say that I get pleasantly surprised when people write me. It's awesome, and I know what Rob means, but it's nice when you're getting messages from people in France or the UK or Germany or whatever, and it's an awesome feeling, that someone is appreciating what you do that much, and it makes you fired up to want to, get your ass in gear and get over there.
Yeah, I mean, on that front, even when the band was last together, I mean, I dare say how drastically different the world is today. I mean, they didn't even have the internet back then. I mean, what has that been?
That's right, man.
What has that been like?
We had to figure it out really quick, like a marketing plan, for guys who were from that era, and not that we're internet idiots, but we're not internet, geniuses either. So,
but you're learning.
So we had to figure out really quick how to compete in this new era.
Yeah.
And I'm proud to say I think we have.
Yeah, I will tip my hat to you guys, because I will tell people just in talking to you today and getting the interview set up, sending emails between us the last couple of days. From what you're telling me, like, part of the reason the band broke up is you had people making, kind of mismanaging the band and people making bad decisions for band. It seems like that you guys have a real hands-on approach, and you kind of are a lot more control maybe than you were back in the day. I mean, Rob was the one, emailing me back, I'm going to have Ray do an interview with me, and, we're getting ready to go on tour. We're leaving for Monday, but if we could do it maybe this week or, and so.
Well, that's, I was the point of contact for you, but it could be someone else for someone else for a different interview, So, but we're all like that. We have our shit together. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah. I'm a constant control freak. Period.
And that's a good thing, I think, because on both fronts. I mean, because if the band has a successful comeback and the album starts selling really well and you're doing real well out on tour, then you don't really have to share the wealth. You know what I mean? You can split among the band members, and there's something to be said for kind of controlling your own destiny, as opposed to having a guy in a suit tell you what you are going to do or what you better do.
Well, if you can control your own destiny, that's great. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The more control that a musician has nowadays is an awesome thing, and that's what the market's sort of been gearing itself to. There's still people that try to manipulate it and want to, make money off the musicians, but it's always going to be like that.
And so you guys have been back, you said, since 2006. So let me ask you, the album's now coming out 2019. So did you have a huge back catalog of these songs that you'd written years ago that had never been released?
No.
Did you start off fresh?
No.
Fresh batch of songs, fresh. Solitaire.
The whole story from 2006 to now is we had different members in the band who were great musicians who weren't the perfect musicians.
I hear you.
They were great musicians. We would go out and do shows, and they would do an excellent job. But Ray and I never felt like it was completely spread eagle until Zeev Shalev and Rick Deluca came in. At that point, we trusted everyone, and then
And Rob, I'm assuming Rick is your brother. Is that correct?
He's cousin.
Oh, cousin. Okay.
And
kind of keep it in the family.
At that point, that's when Ray and I started feeling like, okay, we were moving forward somewhat.
Yeah.
Doing some really great gigs. We went to Europe. We opened for bands like Kicks and big shows, and it was great. But but moving back a little earlier, when Zeev and Rick came in, we started to feel like, okay, this feels really like what we're always expecting out of Spread Eagle.
Yeah.
So then the concept of writing came back on the table. We tried with other members, and nothing we do sucks, but it just wasn't, it wasn't Broken City.
Didn't have that feeling.
Yeah. So after we got Zeev and Rick, we started to feel like we could trust everyone, and just see where it goes. And then we, as Ray said, which is a big part of this answer, we went to Europe and we got this surge of confidence and so then we happened to get an email from Frontiers. So that, I think that's the short story of what happened.
And that's kind of cool because Frontiers is a cool label. They've got a lot of artists that were big in the '80s on their label. Stephen Piercy and Jeff Tate, and they got other great artists on there. White Snake and LA Guns and So what's it like for a band that's been, you've been kind of on your comeback since 2006, but it sounds like you didn't initially have a really, you didn't really set out, we're not going to really set out to get a record deal, but somebody came, a great label like that came to you. That's got to be a great feeling. Wow, somebody's thinking of us.
Yeah, it's nice to be given when someone says, hey man, here's a couple of bucks. Can you write some songs and record them? Like, yeah, man. We don't got to pay for it.
Now let me ask you,
but about the writing, and look, Zeev and Rick, I got to say, Zeev and Rick wanted to write.
That's cool.
They had this gleam in their eye. I remember Zeev going, we were in the rehearsal room. Zeev's like, we got to write some songs, man. Rick's like, yeah, I got a bunch of songs. And me and Rob were like, I think they really want to do this, So
well, see,
it takes the four guys in the room to want to do this.
I got to tip my hat to you, Rob and Ray, because again, you guys are two core original members, and a lot of bands that have such a lineup where they got 2 or 3 new members. A lot of times, the guys that are kind of the original members, like we do all the writing, nobody else contributes. Everything goes through us. I think it's cool that you guys are so open to let the other guys in the band contribute.
Yeah, absolutely. But it's not so much about like
control.
The writing is the gate. Like we're the gatekeepers of the writing. There's so many things involved in being a successful band. Writing is absolutely one of them. But to elevate that like it's everything, I think, is something that's happened in music that is true. Like like if Ray is on a song that he didn't write, I mean, what he adds, the style, is just like, it wouldn't be Spread Eagle without him. If I play on a song I didn't write, I add something that is very important to Spread Eagle. So there's a lot of things. Like some people we all contribute different things. And we're all equal members actually. So
it takes the pressure off.
And that's why there's you guys seem to have a band with great chemistry now. I'm sorry.
What you're seeing is absolutely there. Like we're a band of equal members. We could have found hired guns. And Ray and I had a conversation, and we decided not to do that because it's a long road, and we'd rather have people who would give their entire souls to it. Like
probably part of a reason for that attitude is the fact that you have been through so many lineup changes. And on that note, I was kind of curious, when you finally got these 2 guys and you're so locked in with them now, it's got to be a great feeling. Like, yes, we're back stronger than ever.
Yeah. I mean, we didn't go through so many lineup changes.
But you know what I mean? I mean, like you said,
and even one lineup change will teach you that lesson. Absolutely.
Yeah. And now, as far as recording, when you guys went in and record. Did you do the recording the modern way, or everybody kind of records their parts separately and you piece it together? Did you actually record it as a live band, like in the same room?
Right.
Oh, cool. I like.
Because Rob and Ricky I know Rob and Rick worked a lot as a rhythm section and breaking down the stuff they were writing, and Zeev had songs as well. It's such a cool process that we had. It's ridiculous. It was the most comfortable studio session I've ever been a part of.
Wow.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was very easy.
So it's definitely together.
And now, of course, this album is just a couple weeks out, but let me ask you, as far as your record deal, like, was it a 1 or 2 album deal? Does it depend on how this one sells, or what's the deal with the Frontiers Records?
That's an easy one. Any deal is based on how you do.
Yeah.
If you're not doing well, you're not going to get any more help, whether it's on paper or not.
Yeah. I hear you.
It's such a bottom line, man. If there's not a demand for something, it's just not going to be there. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but I think in talking to you guys today, the beautiful thing about Spread Eagle is you did it the Frank Sinatra. You did it your way.
Yeah, man. That's the only way to do it, and feel good about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're excited to be part of the Frontiers family or roster or whatever you want to call it. But in the end, we are responsible for our career, and that's why we are so hands-on in every aspect of it.
So the album just barely came out, but let me ask you guys, what are your plans as far as touring? Did it kind of depend on how the album sells? Are you starting to plan a tour?
No.
What's up with that?
No, it just depends on scheduling.
Okay.
We're planning all that. We're going to tour the record, absolutely.
And I imagine
scheduling and budgeting and scheduling.
And
if it sold one copy or 1 million copies, we still have a plan. We're still going to tour it no matter what.
And now I got to tell you, also I want to ask you guys about. I was checking out the video for the song "Sound of Speed." Cool song to go with as far as a single. Talk a little bit about the making of the video. What was that like?
It was a very fun day, riding go-karts for God how many hours, you know. Our friend Phil Wacko, who's a great director. Phil Wacko used to be our label mate on MC. He had a band called Law and Order. And I think I know the band after that, right, Rob?
Dogma.
Dogma. So Phil's always been not just a musician, but a very visual artist as well.
Yeah.
And when he stepped out of his music career, he got into movies as an assistant director with, God, I don't know who it was, but obviously he's come a long way. And
now he's a director, and he's got movies. He has a movie out, feature film called The Truth About Lies. It's probably on Netflix.
Right. And he's also such a charitable human being that he was like, I'll help you guys. You know, we were in a bad spot because we had another production team set up to do the video, and there was a death involved with that production. Somebody died, and anyway, so Phil stepped in after that to help us out in a very tight situation. And Rob and I had given him the idea of, you know, the storyboarding the video, and he just ran with it. And he was, you know, we got lucky with him, and it was a very fun video to make. And actually, Rob was involved a lot with like how the video would look as well, you know, with Phil and even the cheerleaders. Like that was Rob's idea.
Wow.
So you know, Rob's a creative cat too.
And I had an ending that wasn't that good. And Phil's ending just really makes it.
He's really good for like the whole cheese meter thing. Like if you're cheesy, he'll call you on it. You know what I mean?
He'll cut it right out. He'll cut it right out.
Wow.
Yep.
So now, I was curious. Once you guys start touring behind the album, have you given any thought to how much of a new album how many of these new songs are gonna be in the set versus the classic stuff?
That's a great question. That's a really great question.
Yeah, if it's good,
my vote would be a third. My vote would be a third of each album, right? What do you think? Because we haven't talked.
That's a good idea too.
That's why it's such a good question.
Yeah, and let me ask you.
Because we all haven't had the conversation of like what's our favorite songs.
Yeah.
You know, we've talked about it, but as a band, we haven't like put in our ballots yet. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Now, of course, you guys have been touring again since 2006. But let me ask you, when the band first started touring again back in 2006, since it had been a while since you played any of the Spread Eagle material, did you remember the stuff instantly? Did you have to go back and rehearse it? What was that process?
Oh, absolutely had to work on it a ton. I mean, for me, right? You can answer after, but I didn't remember it at all. It was difficult for me actually. How about you, Ray?
For me, it's about muscle memory because number one, I don't sing like that anymore, like I used to. Yeah. And thank God, because I like where my voice sits now, tone wise. Because I will be honest with you, when I did the first record in the younger part of my career, I didn't know what the hell I was doing.
Yeah, you're just puppies. You're learning as you go. You know,
put the mic in front of me, and I would just go at 100 miles an hour. And I used to be singing at the top of my lungs, you know. Yeah. And I thought you had to scream everything to get by, but as it turns out, you can actually just sing. So I've learned to marry, I think, my tone with some accents of screaming here and there. I just sing it what feels good now. You know what I mean? I do what's best for the song instead of me trying to be something I'm not.
Yeah, there you go. Like you said, it's and people can kind of tell when you're trying to be something you're not. So now I know, Rob, you've also been playing with Sebastian Bach for a number of years. How did you first hook up with him?
Because he was a fan of Spread Eagle.
Oh, okay.
And he was cool enough to say some really nice things about us in the press in like 1991 maybe.
Wow.
And he came and we did a show in New Jersey at a place called Club Benet.
Okay.
And he showed up and got up and sung Broken City with us, which was really awesome. Because, he was blowing up. He had blown up really big at that point.
Yeah, you talked.
And
wow.
We just respected each other. We didn't really stay in touch, but about 2002, we got back in touch, and Oh no! So after that, he got up on stage and sung with us, he wanted to do some solo stuff. But the skid guys and this is what I heard. I don't know if this is true, but what I heard was the skid guys in management didn't want him to branch out on his own. They wanted to kind of keep him
to himself,
pretty tight under the Skid Row net. So we recorded, and he recorded some songs on his own, and I played bass on it. It was his drummer Bam McConnell, who rest in peace, on drums, and Andy McCoy on guitar from Hanoi Rocks, and Michael Monroe on backing vocals and saxophone from Hanoi Rocks.
Wow!
So we recorded all that stuff at Electric Lady Studios, Jimi Hendrix studio in Manhattan.
Yeah.
And it was supposed to come out. It was an EP, and it got shelved because they wanted to keep him kind of on a tight leash. So that was that. It never came out. And then years later, we got back in touch, and I was like, we should do something. And he's like, well, coincidentally, my bass player's going to be leaving, and so since we had a history, there was no audition process or anything like that. So I think I started with some rehearsals, just kind of filling in, and then I became the bass player in 2005.
And then when you played with him back then, did they have that young kind of shredder guitar player? I think his name was Nicholas something in the band at the time.
Nick Sterling?
Yeah, Nick Sterling, that's it, yeah.
Yeah, I played with him long before that and through that period, yeah.
Oh, wow,
Nick Sterling is a really sweet guy and a really fantastic musician. I got along with him well. It was a shame he was only in the band for a short time because he's a true talent.
Yeah, he's one of those guys that I think if given the opportunity could have been much bigger than what he was. But
well, he's still young.
Yeah.
He's so much younger than all of us. I'm speaking for myself. There's still time for everything.
Yeah,
I hope that happens.
Yeah. Talking a bit about Sebastian, it's amazing that the Skid Row album, the very first Skid Row album, that's like 30 years old too this year. Just think about that for a minute,
Yeah, ours will be 30 years next year.
Wow. And when you first started playing with Sebastian, again, you said you were his friend. I don't know how big of a fan you were of Skid Row, but what was it like playing all those Skid Row songs?
I mean, it was fun, but I really didn't have time to be a huge fan of Skid Row. Like, we were in the thick of it. We were in the studio. I mean, we rehearsed, I'm not exaggerating, we rehearsed a minimum of 5 times a week.
Yeah.
But I would probably say most weeks we rehearsed 6 times.
Yeah.
And so then we were touring, and then we were recording. So, I mean, I'm not going to lie. Skid Row were big on MTV, so the singles, You've Gone Wild, and I Remember You, I definitely saw them all the time because they were, ubiquitous. I turned on MTV and they were there. But other than that, like, for instance, we're doing this new tour and we're doing the entire debut record. These songs I'm learning, I've never even heard them. Never even heard them once,
Well, see, wow.
So I was way too busy with Ray and the guys to be focused on his record. Their debut record came out in '89.
Yeah.
Our debut record came out in '90, and then Slave to the Grind came out in like '91 or something like it.
Because that's when they were. That's when they did the tour with Guns N' Roses. Yeah, and the funny thing about that is, Skid Row for several years have had like a real identity crisis because anybody admittedly will tell you the highest point of their career was the Sebastian Bach years. And the thing of it is he did 3 albums with him, but it's really those first 2 albums, like you were saying, Slave to the Grind and Skid Row. Those are ones that people kind of just latch onto. Even the third one, it's kind of people like the stuff. It's a little different, but after the first 3 albums, people don't listen too much to what Skid Row did after that because they've gone through so many singers. That's the thing,
Well, it becomes kind of like a parody. It's like you had the original thing, and then they just keep playing those songs with another singer live. It's not the same band anymore.
And I think that's what you guys did. Like Rob was alluding to the fact that for a brief moment he was considering carrying on the band without you. But I think the fact that the band ended the way it did and you came back the way it did. It makes for Spread Eagle be a much better position than if you would have had 5 different lead singers.
We probably would have ruined it a little bit, and we probably. I mean, I would love to say that was all planned, and it wasn't. Because we didn't do any gigs. We didn't do any auditions or any gigs with a different singer. However, like as I said, for a minute I considered it, and then I realized it would be stupid. But if we had, you're right, our fans would probably be a lot less forgiving of our history. Like our fans are so passionate about our history because it's not.
Yeah. I mean, it's like
history is only 2 records.
Yeah.
And this record, and nothing in between.
Yeah.
There's really no drama and no negative press to our legacy, and that's why people stand by us for waiting for 26 years for a record. And maybe that's why we're getting such. Well, I think we're getting good reviews. Because
I got to tell people, in preparing for the interview, I was doing a little research on what's going on with the band now, and everything I was reading all these great reviews about the new album. And,
they're through the roof. People saying album of the year, like throwing that phrase out, like, wow, I can't wait to the end of the year.
You definitely have your hardcore. Again, you guys, like you said, been hasn't been any new music for almost 26 years. But here's the thing: you got half of the fan base, or the hardcore classic Spread Eagle fans that were there in the beginning, and then you're going to have another part of the fan base that's just finding out about the band through the new album. They have no idea.
I hope so.
They have no idea about what came before, or they might find out, they released these other albums. Let's go check these out now, see what they did in the past.
I hope that's the situation. I hope people realize, the bands that we had, they knew the growth potential of the band.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I think they're cool like that. Like, the people that are with you from the beginning want to see what you can do. I don't think they want to see you repeat yourself.
Yeah. And now let me ask you.
We were all a very musical band.
Yeah.
I mean, Paul Bartolo. We were all very musical, but like as I said earlier in the conversation, Paul was our engine, the way I like to describe it. And he was older than us, and he was just, he was just such a great musician, probably since he was very, very young. So we were very musical, so we really did have a lot of growth potential, like Ray said.
Yeah, on that front, I was curious, for people that are just, discovering the band through the new album, if they wanted to go buy the other albums, are they out of print, or are they people still able to buy those albums? Their CDs, I should say.
They're out of print. You can get them on eBay, but, they're from probably $35 to $100.
And let me ask you, on that front, if I know the new album is what you're pushing right now, but if a new album does what we think it might, do you think there's any chance that those albums might one day be either you may re-record them or re-release them? Have you had any discussions about that?
That goes back to the question, if everything goes well. If things go well, I'm sure we can get what we want.
Yeah. And
look, I'm a realist, and I don't want to come across as jaded, but I think I'm just a realist with it, and I know that it takes baby steps, and if there's a demand for something, we can make that happen.
Yeah.
I have an indie label, November Records, and I reissued the debut in 2006. That's kind of was one of the steps to get the band back together.
I want to ask you a little bit about your label, because I was somewhat confused. I see you guys are on Frontiers, and the email was through November Records. So do you besides putting out your own stuff, do you sign like other independent artists to that?
No, not at this time. It's my main focus is really breaking the Spread Eagle record, so I don't really have time for much else. I've actually had people ask me to do that. A few other bands that are that you would probably know of that have asked me to do that, but there's not enough time in life to do everything.
And right now, it's important to look out for number one, as they say. Get Spread Eagle back out there.
Well, I only do what I can do well.
Yeah.
I don't do anything that I can't do 100%. Yeah. Like, most people do life at 100%. I do things at about 400% because I'm working on 3 or 4 things at once. But if I can't do them completely, I don't do them.
And now
I haven't done what you asked. However, we reissued Spread Eagle's debut in 2006, and we sold thousands.
Wow!
Very quickly.
That kind of tells you there is a demand for it. And now
There's
we know
definitely a demand.
Now we know Rob.
I just haven't got around to doing it again.
We know Rob has been very busy these past 2 years getting Spread Eagle back together, touring and playing with Sebastian and UFO. But have you?
Ray, what are you doing?
What have you been?
House?
I'm just getting. I'm walking through the front door.
Oh, sorry.
I was in the car. I had to go inside.
Something.
I was just going to ask
I'm
Ray.
walking into the mansion.
Yeah, I was just going to ask Ray. I know Rob's been very active musically the last few years, but when Spread Eagle initially dissolved, did you continue to do other musical projects, or did you kind of do what a lot of guys do and get a regular day job, go back to work?
No, I did do some other projects. First, I walked away from the business and I said, "Fuck that!"
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I wanted to go into the food business. I wanted to become a Food Network star. That was my dream.
Wow!
Right?
Wow!
Baking pies and singing rock and roll. And I did some stand-up comedy. I really enjoyed that.
Wow.
And I think and I did some theater. I did some off-Broadway theater. I really enjoyed that. But I always had my heart still, one foot in performing. Doesn't matter what it was.
Yeah.
And I'm a dancing monkey by trade. That's in my DNA.
Yeah.
But every time I would do something that was different, the music bug, the rock and roll band thing kept pulling me back in. So,
And do you find okay?
I had some guys from Jersey called Hostile Inc. that we formed.
Oh wow!
So we did that. Yeah, I did that in Jersey. That got me sort of coming back into the business again. And that was doing songs that I had recorded in 2010, a record called APW.
Okay.
And that was songs that I wrote, my particular taste, and that record's called All Points West.
That was All Points West, right?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, All Points West, yeah. And I had done maybe like 2 or 3 years worth of gigs.
Cool name.
Yeah, and I did, thanks, man.
Yeah.
I did gigs in the city, and it was a great band, lots of fun, had a few different lineups. After that, actually, we started doing Spread.
Oh wow!
So I've always done projects. I haven't never made them a big deal, and I never had the money behind me to even do that. But I think All Points West is something I really loved and believe in. I still play the stuff when I can, and also, so since 2015, I've been in a band called Weapons of the New.
Oh, okay.
Which I just came off the road with, and Rob has been really supportive of that. And
it's awesome.
Now let me ask you:
back and forth.
is the guitar player in that band? Is his name?
you interviewed them, yes.
Freddie, right? Freddie.
You interviewed them.
Yeah. Oh wow, what a small world! I wasn't even aware of that.
Yeah, man. We just got the road with Scott Stapp.
Oh wow, how cool is that?
Yeah, we did Alter Bridge. Scott, it was a great tour. It was really eye-opening. I learned a lot because you think you know stuff.
What did you learn?
Right?
What did you learn?
I learned that I didn't suck.
Yeah.
I learned that I really have fun in the business, and I learned a lot about social media. How to just work a band and gain momentum. Starting a band all over again. I keep doing that, whether it's Spread or whatever. I always feel like I'm starting again. Spread has a new, reviving our career. We're starting that over again. Weapons is a new band, so I like staying fresh.
Yeah, at the same time, you kind of already answered this, but Spread Eagle is kind of your safety net. It's the kind of what you're used to. Now, when you do something like Weapons of a New, it's got to be fun too because it's different type of music. It's not, you're not doing the same type of thing that you're doing with Spread Eagle.
Well, I get to put vocally to Weapons. I'm left to my own devices, so I kind of it's really a great way to express myself. In a very heavy format. I really love low tuning.
Yeah.
I love all that stuff, man. And I think my voice fits in that environment more than I even thought. So I learned a lot about myself that way.
A lot of environments, right? But
Yeah.
I agree. It does fit Weapons very well.
So I'm having a good time with it. I learned a lot about touring.
Yeah.
Stuff that I had forgotten, how to take care of myself, and I sang with In-Ear Monitors this year. That was an awesome thing. But it's a very strong band, and I'm happy. I'm really happy as far as singing with Weapons of a New. Rob supports it, so I'm able to do both things. I mean, Rob has his bands, and we work our things back and forth.
Yeah, it's very important. Sorry to interrupt, right? But it's very important for Ray and I to work because I used to be a carpenter for a lot of years, but I'm not a carpenter anymore. So. Everyone knows about the current music business. I don't have to teach anyone any lessons about that.
No,
you have to hustle.
You have to pay the bills.
Put it on your table
I think
and
people.
pay your rent.
I think people would be.
And that's what Ray and I are doing. We're out there.
Yeah.
We're out there working.
That's what it's all about.
And this year,
yeah, that's what it's all about.
I learned, things aren't just going to be handed to you. You got to go out and take them. You got to go out. It's you're going to battle every single night out there, and especially when the audience doesn't know who you are, you've got to reach to the back of the house to get them. And I think I've become kind of like the performer I want to be. I have a long way to go still. I always want to be better and better, so I'm never happy.
That's what that's what it's all about, is progressing, like you said.
I learned you got to work hard as hell.
Yeah. And even then, sometimes it doesn't come your way. But the harder you work, the better chance you have at it. And I think people will be.
Yeah, you got to make your own luck.
Yeah, I think people.
Preparation.
I think people.
Preparation means luck.
Yeah, I think people will be surprised to learn that a band like Warrant, that a lot of those guys, they do these big weekend gigs and these big summer festivals. But a lot of those guys, they got their day jobs, and they just have to fight to pay the bills still. Oh, they were signed to Columbia Records. Yeah, that was back in the day. The original lead singer, he passed away. They got another guy that's just he's doing it the song's justice. But even bands like that are just fighting to do.
They go home and they work their day jobs.
Yeah, that's what it's about.
Yeah, and that's and let's be real here. Warrant were a fucking huge band.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, man. Oh yeah.
So if they have to do that, you realize that that we have to do that. And Ray and my job is touring.
Yeah.
Our day jobs are touring.
Yeah, and the situation with Warrant is interesting because all their great big albums from back in the day with Janie Lane, he was the primary songwriter. So a lot of the guys that are still in the band, a lot of original guys, they're not even making royalties off the song. I think Janie's family's getting all that, but they're
and that's back when there were a lot big royalties. Nowadays there isn't, but back then, that's a lot of money.
And so the records they're making now with Robert Mason, they decide, okay, we all want to be involved in the song right now, so they're getting money from that a little bit, but all those great Janie songs, they're able to go do those songs because he wrote all those great songs, and his family's allowing them to do that. So otherwise, they wouldn't be doing what
they're making a living off their MTV days. You take that and you just try to get on the road and play to the people that like that stuff, and you keep going in circles to get to them. And it's difficult. Those bands, a lot of bands are doing that. There's a whole industry on that. People that
I've done a lot of shows. I'm sorry. Finish. Sorry.
People that have their 15 minutes, they got to do what they can to put food on the table, so they're going to go out and play those songs.
Yeah, and
I've done a lot of shows with Warrant, with Bach and Warrant. And
this is where the new Spread Eagle record, that's like, guys can fool themselves.
Yeah.
They can go into the studio and make these songs, make a new record, and they think that it's the shit. But a lot of them are just rehashing what they used to do.
Yeah.
So we've had time to grow and come back with really fresh attitudes, I think.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Now, I know it's getting late where you guys...
That's why I think we're getting the reviews we're getting, and that's why our fans have stuck with us for 26 years waiting for this record.
No doubt. And
I had some anxiety, man. I had a little bit of anxiety, Rob will tell you. I was like, man, I hope people like this stuff, and don't worry, Ray, it's going to be fine.
But Ray, like, when you're telling...
like, are you sure I don't have to sing that song again? I'm like, Ray, it's great, trust me.
But see, even when you guys were getting the band back together in 2006, you're telling me you reissued the first album, and you said there was just such a huge demand for that after all those years of it being out of print. That's gotta be a welcoming sign, It
was a sign, and we've been together since 2006.
Yeah.
Like, if it wouldn't have been that, we got together in 2006 again because we had the reissue, etc. Yeah. And if it would have been just like a lukewarm response to what we were, then we probably wouldn't have stayed together. But we've been together nonstop since 2006.
And see, so in a way, and I think even with the great reviews now you're getting with the new album, the fans have already spoken, and they're continuing to speak louder and louder, especially with the new album. Because I tell you, before I got on the phone with you guys today, I was prepping for this. I was reading just so many great reviews. And
it's just sick, right?
Yeah, you wouldn't.
It's sick. That's a huge list of just like the best reviews of my career personally.
And see, that's the thing I love about the internet. The internet could be a good thing, it could be a bad thing. But if some people are latching on to an album like this, and you get nothing but great reviews,
I'm not going to say we have nothing but great reviews. I'd say 95%, 90 to 95% are raving. But you're always going to have a couple haters.
Of course, but I mean.
Oh yeah, man.
And that'll keep you honest.
I guess what I'm saying is when Motley Crue broke up for a few years and then they get back together, you know right away a band like that fans are gonna come in droves. But a band like Spread Eagle, like you said, you never quite reached that plateau, say like of a Motley Crue or a Bon Jovi, and yet you come back 26 years later and you're getting just great reviews, and that probably wasn't expected, on your end, and you're like, wow, look at all these great things people are saying about our new album,
Well, it's always nice to be the little engine that could.
Yeah.
It's nice to be underdog.
It's a great feeling. We've always been the underdog. For some reason, we were really too big for our own britches a long time ago, and things didn't work out. You learn from that. You get humble.
Yeah, and in case you guys can't tell, I just really enjoyed talking and getting to know you guys today. I know it's getting late where you are, so we're going to get ready to wrap it up. But I did want to ask you, Ray, you mentioned for a brief while you gave a shot at stand-up, doing comedy. Is that something you'd always want to do? Or
Always.
Ray is very funny, so...
Yeah.
Very, very funny looking. I think as a singer, frontman, whatever, you have to have a sense of humor about you. Because you can't take yourself too serious.
Yeah.
And you're in rooms full of people that are looking at you, wondering what you're going to say.
Yeah.
So you kind of got to have your shit together. And I think I learned a lot about presence and just how to be comfortable in front of people. And in stand-up, you got about 10, 20 seconds to make people like you.
And I would think the difference between being a frontman for a band and being a stand-up comic is, like when you're performing with Spread Eagle, you got your band, you got your guys, to kind of back you up, to fall back on. Whereas when you're doing a comedy routine, all eyes are really.
It's all you, baby.
Yeah.
Scary.
It's all you. You got 10 seconds to make them like you, maybe 20.
And see, and the thing I gotta say, Ray, is like I know doing comedy, just like being a musician, they're both very creative art forms, but and they're very different animals, I would think. But do you find like creating music, getting up on stage with Spread Eagle much easier than like coming up with a comedy routine, or would you say it's equally difficult?
It's equally difficult. There's comedy everywhere.
Yeah.
You can make the most mundane thing comical, but when you're writing lyrics and melodies, or putting things to song, it's a whole different mindset. You've got to sort of like really, really think in colors and think just layers. And how's a lyric going to affect people? Comedy's very fast. You're affecting people right away. Lyrics are like, these are things people are going to talk about later. They can listen to a song, they're going to break down the lyrics, that kind of thing. Comedy just happens right away. Yeah, and then I was curious as songwriters, like, what you're writing the song about, and I'm sure you've had people come up to you and comment on, how much they love a particular song or something, and maybe they got something different out of the song, like, it touched them personally, and you think, oh, that's great that you got that out of the song, but that's what you want to get out of it, great, but that's not what it's about. Does that kind of touch you when somebody gets something else out of the song than what you intended? Well, of course. Yeah. Back in the day, when Through These Eyes was doing very well on metal radio, it's kind of a very sad, somber song. So there was a couple that came up to me, and they were like, that was our wedding song. I'm like, what? Wow. What? Yeah. What are you talking about, I appreciated it, but it was just such I'm like, it's very sad, but thank you. It's always great when you affect somebody lyrically. Yeah, that's it means different things to different people. And that just goes to prove to you that, music is really a universal language. It's a great way to bring people together, a lot of times. I've said this before, and Rob and I've had this conversation. A band creates their own language. I think the fan, or whoever listens to it, you can say the word fan, the people that listen to it learn the language, and you all meet in the same room, and you have that conversation back and forth. It's a beautiful thing. Yeah. I think that's a beautiful way to look at it. Like, and each band, there's elements of that language of rock and roll, which are obviously common, but each band has certain elements of that language that are only their own. And that's really, no one has ever explained it like that. And when you said that recently, Ray, I thought that was so cool, because it's so true, Like, we're not like any other band, Like, people have compared us to Guns N' Roses, people have compared us to Skid Row, people have compared Skid Row to us, people have compared us to LA Guns, but
we have elements in common, yes, but we are our own thing, and we speak this language. When we do a concert, it's this communal conversation, and Ray is a master of that, of just conducting that conversation.
Yeah,
it's in its most basic form.
Yeah, and I know you guys are very busy promoting the new Spread Eagle album, but Rob, you also mentioned that you're going to be going out with Sebastian doing the 30th year anniversary of the Skid Row album. I've heard talk that he's getting ready to do a new solo album too. Any chance that you'll be featured on that, or you don't know at this point?
I really don't know the details of his album. I haven't heard anything. I mean, I've heard them talk about it a little bit, but I haven't heard any definite plans.
Any confirmation?
So,
okay. Well, yeah, I just been reading things online. That's why I was asking. Well, again, I'd like to thank you guys. I can't believe we've been talking a little over an hour, but that's cool because I love having conversations with guys like you that get really into your music and stuff. And the one thing I hope we accomplish today is kind of talking about the Spread Eagle story, especially the comeback story. And I just want to tell you guys, I haven't had a chance to hear the rest of the album except for the single, but I'm definitely.
Oh, you are so fired right now.
This is my point.
we like you, Jason.
This is my point. I'm going to definitely get my hands on the album, and once I've had a chance to hear it, I would like to do a follow-up interview maybe in a few months and just kind of really talk more specifically.
Why don't you just do a review with us, a live review, and we'll talk about what you hear.
Okay, well,
you write down what you hear, and then it'll be a conversation instead of just a strict review.
That's great. I'll tell you. So allow me to get the album within the next couple days, and then once, because I know you guys are getting ready to leave for a tour, but maybe once you return from a tour, I'll contact you, and by that point, I'll have had time to listen to the full-length album.
Hey Jay.
Yeah.
Hey Jay. No pressure, man.
No, but I just want you guys to know I tend to ramble on as you listen to some of my interviews, but I really enjoy talking to guys like you, and I just want to thank you for taking time to talk to me. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, we enjoy talking to guys like you too, man.
So I have a couple quick things to say. First off, I want to say Spread Eagle's new album, Subway to the Stars, is out. It's on Frontiers Music SRL. It's out right now. It's on all platforms. You can buy it physical copy on Bandware, Amazon, eBay, all the outlets, and it's on Spotify, Apple Music, all that stuff. We're on all the social platforms. Also want to say to you, Jason, I just started listening to you to prepare for this interview, and I think you're a huge talent. Like a lot of people do a good job. They do their due diligence and they're prepared and they ask good questions and all. But this is something that you are very natural at, and I'm excited to see what happens to you in the future, because this is something you're very good at, and I would really appreciate to talk to you on the on this review that you just mentioned, but also on the next record, because I really like your style.
Because I'll tell you this, like I said, I started doing this in 2007, and I've gotten better, obviously, like you guys have said.
You're just a natural.
Over the years.
You're just a natural. It's you're just a conversation. You're informed, and it's just a very good conversation.
Well, I'm going to do a review of this. So
I thank you guys very much for that compliment. But I'll tell you a funny story before we wrap this up. I recently did. I don't know if you had a chance to hear, but I recently did an interview with the legendary Corky Lang from Mountain.
Great. I didn't see that. I saw it, but I didn't watch it.
Yeah, but this is a kind of feedback I get from people. Because, like I said, if you listen to interviews, they do kind of ramble on. That's my style. So, like I said, I don't like to fake it in. I like to just be myself. And a lot of people, it's too long to listen to. You need to, even the guy that runs the site, he said, it'd be better if you could cut it down to, 15 minutes. But I'm like, there's no way I can ask everything in 15 minutes.
Not for our fans.
That's just my style, And
they want the art of conversation, brother.
Yeah. And it's funny because if you go on the site, I gave you guys a link. It's funny, like the Corky Lang interview. It's like if you listen, it's a great interview. In all modesty, but it's like only 10 views. And I'm like, and then I keep trying to post and stuff. And then you could get one. There's a couple interviews like the band that's fairly new, nobody's probably even heard of, and it's got over 2,000 views. It's just crazy.
Yeah. I mean, we're all trying to legend,
Yeah, we're all trying to be heard. We're creating this really cool chain of communication with you, which is awesome.
Yeah, and you know, Corky
So-
Lang, what I was interviewing him about was he put out a book recently to his mother that I guess has since passed on, kind of in tribute to her. And the book is based around all these letters that he would send home to her, like when he was touring with Mountain all those years ago. And it's just kind of these little cool letters, and it was fun talking to him. But thanks again, you guys, and best luck with the new album. And when I have a chance to hear it, we'll do that review. So take care, and we'll keep in touch. Okay?
Question.
Yeah.
Do you have a stream? Did you get a stream from our publicist?
No, I don't believe I did. We were just emailing back and forth. But if you want to do that, we could. I'm sure.
I'll have them send you a stream. I'll work on it.
But I give you guys my word on this, because I'm an old school guy. I still like to have a physical CD, in my hand, as they say, and check out all of our artwork. And like I said, I'm all about
that.
I'm all about
I'll
supporting.
get you a stream,
Yeah.
and you can start listening to it. And then if you get a physical copy of that, we appreciate that too.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let me ask you guys one final question. I can't believe I forgot to ask you this. I got to ask you because I know one of the hardest things when you form a band is coming up with a band name. Great name, Spread Eagle. What's the story behind the name?
Right.
Yeah.
Great. We got signed. Well, we got signed so quickly. From like rehearsal, we didn't do showcases.
Uh-huh.
We got signed out of our rehearsal room.
Yeah.
That we were literally signed and then recording at the record plant right after that. And
3 months.
Wow.
and we never thought about a name. We were just like, well, I think some of that process. Well, anyway, we got into a room and our management was like, we need a name.
Uh-huh.
And we're like, oh shit, we don't have one. And I think our old manager Scott Calvert came up with Spread Eagle. We were throwing a bunch of stuff around the room, all shit.
Yeah.
And of all things that came out, we were like, Spread Eagle.
Wow.
You know, why not? Why the fuck not? So
I think the song was written first, but I'm not 100% sure.
Wow.
Oh man, I don't know. I was really blind on Jack Daniels, probably. I really don't know.
Yeah.
But it just Scott Calvert was a really wild guy as far as videos directors. He was a really he was a kook, man.
Wow.
God,
He directed. Our manager Scott Calvert, rest in peace. He directed Guns N' Roses Live at the Ritz concert.
Oh wow.
DVD.
Yeah.
He ran that whole thing. He was the director, top director. So
and a lot of stuff out of Calvin Productions too.
Oh okay. Wow.
Like Jazzy Jeff, Parents Just Don't Understand.
Oh wow.
The Switchblade
MTV Awards.
Yeah.
He used the same template for the Switchblade video that he did for Marky Mark's Good Vibrations. You'll see that. It's pretty
wow,
funny.
wow.
Go look at that.
That guy was all over.
Less muscles.
Anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
Muscles.
But
Okay.
Scott Calvert came up with the name our old manager did, and we just
wow.
were all like, we were all crazy enough to go like, that's great. Let's go.
Okay, once again, we've been talking to our good friends from Spread Eagle, Rob Deluca and Ray West. Thanks so much, you guys, and we'll definitely be in touch and do a follow-up interview. But the interview itself here hopefully will be up in about a week or so. I'll be sure to let you know the minute it goes up, okay?
All right, brother.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you
Thanks,
so
Jay.
much, Jason. Bye-bye.